welcome back to Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. Today, I am joined with Robin Thomas, my own special spiritual leader and coach. I'm so excited. Robin is a spiritual teacher, happiness coach, healer, and founder of Phoenix Rising Healing's Fierce Happy Women Coaching. She is also a lead teacher and coach at the Reese Thomas Institute of Energy Medicine. She is a self-help personal transformation junkie and enjoys collecting certificates and degrees. Robin is passionate, enthusiastic, playful, and deeply irreverent, habitually giving her own guides a run for their money. She is also a contributing author to the anthology Joy on Demand, Choose Healthy Habitual Happiness. She believes wholeheartedly in the value of play and fervently enjoys calling forth playmates willing to dive deep into what it means to be fully alive. Yes, Robin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Isn't it wild to know that we did not know each other even 4 months ago, 5 months ago?
It actually is a little crazy. Like when you have these relationships that like deepen almost instantly, and then you're like, I don't remember my life without you. It's a really powerful. Yeah, it really is powerful when souls that are meant to be together come together. They're like, oh, we were always here. There you are.
Oh, hi, there you are.
Exactly.
I literally think that way. I can't imagine now not talking to you weekly. It's wild. So, what moves are you excited to be making right now?
I love making waves. So the moves that I make really are helping women just embrace the whole of who they are. By doing that, we are actually healing the world. I know this, like I know my name, that the more people can just embrace fully and completely who they are, the easier it is to heal and change and be the change and have that compassion for everybody. So the moves I'm making right now are really reaching more people to teach them what I know.
Yeah. I'm specifically benefiting from the power of your energy and the work that you're doing, because something that I think about quite often is when we met, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, at the retreat back in March. I remember asking you, I said, I know that I'm here to help light other women up. Mm-hmm. And I know that I'm here to make big change for humanity, but specifically I was feeling called specifically to help women. Is there anything else? And you're like, should there be? Like, what? What do you mean? And I wasn't even thinking about, at the time when I was saying these things, how kind of incredible and powerful the words that I was saying it are. I was constantly looking for ways outside of myself to reinforce what I already knew. And I think that's the beautiful work that we've been focused on and doing for the past, I think now 2 months or
almost 3. Yeah.
Working together on is, I remember crying with you in March and saying, I'm so angry all the time. Like everything hurts because women are so under attack. And I think that's where I heard you say, I have fierce compassion and sacred rage. What do I do with that? Because at the time it was all consuming, and it was like really taking over in a bad way, where that's started to lift a little bit.
Right.
How did we get here? How did I get here?
You can focus on what's going wrong. You can focus on everything that's being, let's say, done to us. As the divine feminine is rising, there is that sacred rage that most of us are feeling. And I do think that on some level, women are just being like, enough, no more, right? So there is that, but I think we have to be really careful that we're not demonizing men, and that we're not, what are we against versus what we're for. It's a really small distinction, but it's a really big deal. If you're for you, it's not rage at, it's not fighting against, it's not pushing, it's not striving. It's what am I for? And how am I going to stand for that? Because the universe only ever understands the for. It doesn't understand the against. It's like you're fighting against yourself. When we can take that, what am I for? What do I stand for? Who am I inside? And shed that out. Now it gives permission for everybody else to do that and be that and show up as themselves. So I remember having that conversation with you about that sacred rage. And I said, the peaceful warrior never draws her sword.
I still say that to folks. I'm like, my spiritual coach always tells me, you have your sword.
Right.
You have it. I mean, it's there, but I don't want to have to draw it. That's what I've come to at this moment is I
Exactly.
don't want to have to draw it. Whereas back in March, I'm going to fucking draw it and I'm going to shiv everybody.
Right. I'm going to just lay waste to the whole land. If we go back to an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, that's the same energy, right? It really is. I'm going to take them out at the knees. You can. You're the spiritual warrior. You have a flaming sword. You could literally lay waste to the whole land. And you've now destroyed yourself in the process. How do you have that central core of peace inside of you that then you don't have anything to prove to anybody? And
Right.
that's where the peaceful warrior is.
And that's what has been building so strongly within me since, I know, Robin is so powerful and spiritual. She knows exactly what's happening. And I feel like you and I talk about this a lot. May, June, and July have been so wildly energetic. And what that's shown up for me is that my guides have paused me to think about, okay, do you really want to burn it to the ground, or do you want to find space for those who are seemingly stirring or wiggling? Because I was so adamant when I first launched my business in February, I'm only serving women. I'm only serving kind of this vehement feminist space. What if I were to help hold space? And you helped me realize this too, helping the divine masculine be as
Yes.
well. And through that work, what if I was able to hold that space? And what's wild to me already is that I find it more comfortable, and I don't know what to do with this yet, so maybe you can help guide in real time. I find it more comfortable to ping men and say, hey, do you need my help? Than I do women. And it's like, I don't know if it's because I don't want her to think I'm suggesting she needs help, but I know men need help. I don't know how to explain that. So
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I totally get that. Men do need help and maybe they aren't necessarily able to always ask for it in the same way. Also, men respond to directness, right? Like men really do have a totally different communication style. They're very direct. They're very forward. They say is what they mean. Often there's not so much of the like, I said this, but I really meant this. And women do this with the mental machinations all the time, but men kind of don't. And that doesn't mean that they don't have a lot underneath the surface. It just means that they're not necessarily even present with it. So you could say, hey, do you
right.
need help? And a guy might respond to that versus a woman may or may not take offense, or it could be your own imposter syndrome that comes up around it,
Right. It's probably the
right?
lot. Yeah.
Both. It gets to be both and.
It gets to be both and yes, you're right. So that's kind of beautiful. And that's been a big, huge change that you've helped me do. So the moves that you're making, how do you tell people what you do? We attract the energy that we're putting out. And so by virtue of that, muggles aren't coming to you, but also having to
Right.
like explain in a lot of how you do things, but even to stirring or wiggly people, how do you say it?
I change up my elevator pitch all the time, right? I just recently tweaked it again. What I've been saying for a long time is I teach women how to fall in love with themselves. And people are always like, "Oh, tell me more." That's fascinating. Because I mean, at the core of it, that's really true. And also that doesn't tell you anything about what I do or how I operate. So the sometimes challenge that I run into is who actually am I speaking to? So
Mhm.
what I've started doing is talking to like a very specific client. Like I'll think about a really great session that I had with a client and I'll speak to her and I'll say, hey, are you longing for something more, or are you in some level of transition? All of my clients are usually in some sort of transition because I'm the way station. Like it's kind of who I am. I've always been that. So my clients are always in some sort of transition. So I've started speaking to that. Have you been longing for deep intimacy? And it comes from this place of chronic not good enoughness and people pleasing. I'm speaking to one specific client, but what I'm talking about is these lifelong patterns that have kept you out of relationship. I
Mhm.
mean, I had a coach tell me once, you could be a relationship coach. I'm not a relationship coach. She's like, but you are. And I was like, okay. So,
all the titles, like to
I
your
know.
point, and interestingly, when you were just talking, I got a message. You're a spiritual GPS. That's what I got
Yes. Yep.
while you were talking. So maybe that could be one of the pitches at some point, because that's kind of like, to your point of giving just enough information to get the conversation going and
Yeah.
saying, and it's hard to explain, especially for me as I'm waking up. Ultimately, what I offer is conversation toward what could be.
Yes.
And sometimes that's real ambiguous, and they're like, and so that's not going to resonate with a lot of people. But for those who might be kind of waking up, that could be something that could.
It's possible. You offer possibilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're offering to people is possibilities, especially when people feel like they're stuck in a position or a job or a workplace or something. You're offering possibilities of something different, whether or not they take it, whatever, but you're just giving them another perspective.
And what's so gorgeous is that the clients I have so far, they've had these amazing transformations. Until this week, I had not brought spirit into my coaching sessions, and I did this week. And it was kind of like,
Can I just correct you for a second? Consciously. You didn't consciously bring spirit into your sessions, but spirit's always like, you can't not do it with spirit. So
I was like, so I sense your energy right now. Do you mind if I share? That was, and they were like floored that I hadn't done that yet. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? These transformations that are happening, I've shared with them. The moment they reached out and wanted a coach and wanted to kind of change, that sent a signal to the universe and to their team to say, okay, I'm open and ready for more. And they got it, which is
absolutely
so gorgeous. I wish I sometimes could put that into like words are limiting in that case.
True. And well, what I've been using is when I studied Reiki for the first time, there's a story of Dr. Yasui when he discovered Reiki, when it came back to Earth, he discovered it. And he ultimately came to this place of he would go town to town and he would just stand in the town and stand in the square and hold a light or a torch in the town square. And he would say, I'm just looking for people who are interested in enlightenment. Now, he didn't do anything. He just held a vibration and he sent out a signal. I think of it as like the bat signal, right? You just send out a signal and people are going to resonate with it when they're ready. So I'm more and more often I'm looking at like even my marketing efforts are like, I'm just sending out a signal and I'm just calling in people to gather to that signal.
So speaking of the bat signal, and this actually does correlate beautifully with the post you made on LinkedIn 11 months ago and the most recent one that you made on Instagram, which is about the retreat. So tell me about the bat signal you put out 11 months ago and what ended up happening from that bat signal and how that leads into what you're about to do more of.
So I have been telling that sort of Yasui story since I learned it. I've been telling that story, and I partnered with my best friend, and I said, hey, I want to do a retreat. She was like, yes, let's do a retreat. Let's do it. We're both coaches. She's a mindset coach, whatever. So we set out that we're going to do this retreat, and we didn't know what we were doing, but I just kept saying, we're just calling these women in. We're calling the right people in. And I just trusted that was happening. I just was like, these people are coming. I felt it. I never questioned it. There was some times that like it got hairy because we were like, are we gonna have enough people to like, right? Like so there was some behind the scenes stuff, but we did just trust. I would be in a conversation with someone talking about the retreat and someone would overhear me and be like, I need to know about this, or like happenstance, someone connected with someone else and they were like, oh, I just was interested in this. So it's like the universe sort of greased the way for us to have exactly the right conversations at the right time. In fact, the very last person who joined our retreat, Francine and I were like, it was like, I don't know, Tuesday before Friday's retreat, we go live, or maybe it's a week before. It was like short time space. She's like, let's just do one more live. Let's just like throw it out there. And I was like, all right, whatever, fine. And like the last person to join, she found our live on Facebook at 2:00 in the morning. And she was like, I have to do this. And like, she just was like, she did it. She didn't even talk to her husband. Like, so she showed up and she, like, it was so powerful. And she was the last piece. She was the last peg of that. And so that was the bat signal. That really was, I just kept holding the vibration of exactly who needs to be there is going to be there. So then when you all came, you bonded in the most extraordinary way. I've never seen a group bond like that fast, that quickly, that deeply, that intimately, ever.
It was life-changing.
Yeah.
And I love knowing the last person that joined, because knowing her, totally her. Yes, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
And absolutely her. And you know what's interesting is that leading up to the retreat, Carrie and I would talk. We're like, we have no idea what's happening. We have no idea. We're just going. And for me, it was a cross-country trip, but I was also seeing my best friend, and so that was amazing. And what was really exquisite is that my best friend of 30 years, we learned, or like we met each other, like we met each other that weekend, which was unreal.
It was beautiful to watch that too. It was really beautiful to watch that sort of unfolding, because there's, this 30-year friendship, right? So you guys know each other pretty intimately, and also watching layers peel back and have even a totally different relationship form was one of the more, there was so many breathtakingly beautiful moments at that retreat, but that was one of my favorites, was watching those like layers peel back and have you guys you folks meet each other in real time as who you were. It was really, there was a moment that I watched that happen so beautifully. And it brought tears to my eyes to watch it happen.
I cried a lot. No. So for those listening, this retreat, to Robin's point, she put out a bat signal, the end of 2022, right? And then by kind of 1 or 2 or 3 degrees, I didn't even know you heading into the retreat. I heard about it from obviously Carrie, who I knew Francine and all of that. And so I need to continue my spiritual journey, my spiritual path. And I knew enough that the retreat was going to focus on spiritual growth, healing of some sort. But to your point, even coming in, it's like we all just wholly walked in with no expectations and open hearts to be able to share space for every single individual.
Yep.
And I know that these women are now going to be in my life forever, and that I don't know if I'll ever have that experience again. I don't know.
You may not. I believe fully and wholly that those are the experiences that's how we heal. You asked me at the beginning, what moves am I making? And that's it, is I want to bring circles of women. And now actually I want to bring circles of men. I want to bring circles of humans together so that we can do that open-hearted, compassionate, find your tribe energy. Like, this is really, I know this is what's going to happen, right? So you're right that you may not have that exact experience, but that one experience was enough for you to open, to take you in a whole different plane.
It tapped into things that finally, I think that was kind of like ripping off my last Band-Aid, perhaps, during that time, so that I could really kind of dig in a really uncomfortable place. So how does the retreat, your very first retreat, when is your next retreat? How did the first retreat inform the second one, and so on?
Well, I say we didn't know what we were doing. That's both true and not true. I teach at the Reese Thomas Institute, and when we were in person, we would have 3-day weekends for every 6 weeks, where that was the kind of energy and magic, and we did those kinds of exercises that we did with you folks. Different. We had our own spin on it, but like, we brought people together every 6 weeks or so for 3 years. That's how the program was structured. And Francine and I both went through that program. So we knew what it meant to hold space, to create a safe environment, to do work that both invites people to deepen into themselves and also deepen relationship with others. We knew how to do those aspects, but like, the finding the space and marketing and all that stuff, that was sort of beyond our ken. How the first one has informed the second one is, we'll do similar but not the same activities. We're taking things just a little one more layer deeper. So we'll probably talk a little bit more. Like last time we did a whole lot of shadow work. We had you folks do that exercise that really like brought up your shadow and asked you to claim it. This time we'll probably look at the voices that are in your head, those gremlin demony voices that keep you playing small, and really go right at those. So it's like one next level of consciousness, relationship, intimacy. I didn't hire we had a retreat concierge person that I was like, well, I don't need that the second time, because it turned out we did know what we were doing after all. So there's a level of confidence that I didn't have the first time. What we had done was so powerfully magical.
Something that made me laugh is that, not laugh, but like, you two are very much the kind of teachers and in charge that week. And I kind of thought about you as the camp counselors, and it was never that, to your point, like it was never, I love the reframe. It was never that you didn't know what you're doing. It's just kind of like the logistics of a retreat. It's like, well, you did all the great work to bring us together. And I would recommend anyone who's not only curious, but willing to do some really soul-bearing work. These retreats are incredible, because not only do you have an experience where you have experts like yourself that are at the helm and like making sure that you can navigate and hold space appropriately for whatever comes up, because it's really hard shit. But also you have people around you in your space that are also willing to do the same things.
And there's a resonance that happens with that. Like energetically, when people are together doing the same work, that resonance happens, just like when geese fly in formation, we fly bigger, better, faster, longer together. The resonance of people doing the work together makes the work that you're doing that much more expansive. Like it is that life-changing experience. It is that magical moment. Could you be where you are now if you hadn't had the experience in March? Who knows? But you had the experience in March, which like sort of jet propelled you to where you are now.
Catapulted. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I think the absolutely biggest thing, because there's no way she's ever had any shadows or any any dark. I was like, there's no way. And then when you were like sharing your experience with me about sacred rage and feminism and like where we are, it's like, whoa. And seeing where you were able to go, I knew you were the one that's going to be able to bring me to where I want to go. And what's pretty incredible is, to your point, the retreat was kicking off point, but then our work together now has been incredible, to the point where I want to hold space for the very men or humans in general, right, that are saying and doing things that are not aligned with what I am doing. But my instinct now is to say, oh gosh, they hurt.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Like that's my first response now. It's not like, fuck everybody. Which, by the way, yay, if someone is like that. Like
yes, absolutely. We're doing it because the rage is means a boundary. Anger, rage, those emotions that come up means the boundary has been crossed. It means there's enough. It means we've hit the point of like, I will not tolerate this anymore, right? So it's like that is the line in the sand, and also it's empowering. That those feelings are empowering. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Again, like I talked about earlier, if you're at somebody or against them, there's no separation. Humans are like, the only separation exists in our brains. There's no separation. So if you're against them, you're against yourself. And if you're against yourself, now you can't actually function in the world.
I'm thinking about that.
I can see it landing.
So I was against myself when I was constantly so angry.
Yes.
How do I 3D connect that?
How do you 3D connect that? So you could say that you were either, and this is where something maybe like you want to do some introspection on, it could have been that you were angry at your own masculinity or you were afraid of your own power, or conversely, angry at your powerlessness when you were small and didn't have a voice. And it could be a perfect trifecta of all of that.
Mm.
So anything that you see in someone else that you judge and hate and revile and can't stand, it's in you.
Mm.
You couldn't see it in someone else if it wasn't in you.
Will you take that a level deeper?
All of us, the generations like my kids and like Carrie's kids and whatever, they were born upgraded, and we have enough consciousness that we're not messing them up entirely. We're messing them up, but not like they'll be able to. It's not like they'll have to have a midlife crisis. They can have a teenage crisis. But so most of our parents, most of the societal people that we grew up with, teachers, coaches, healers, all of it had a very finite view of the world. And there was a right way and a wrong way. And if you didn't do things their way, you were wrong. You were judged, you were bad, you were whatever. And that goes internal. Like we take that on. For the first 7 years of our lives, we take it on as fact.
Mm.
It goes in as fact. We don't have the discernment to know what's right and what's wrong. We just, everything that gets said to us is a fact. And so we absorbed culturally, socially, gender roles, absorbed a lot of internalized judgment of ourselves. This is one of the things I do in my work with women or people is unpacking those judgments and allowing, first of all, that that part of you is completely okay. And then deciding who do you want to be, knowing that this is just a part of you. So when you see something in someone else, whatever it is, good or bad, like if there are traits that you admire in people, that's in you as well. But when you see something that you judge or you think, how could you do this? Or that drives you crazy, or your anger at the patriarchy, that's your own internalized judgment of whatever it is you revile about the patriarchy, the power, the inconsideration, the misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
That's your own internalized judgment of your role as a woman, your power, your experiences. It's that judgment that's still sort of running the show.
Well, because it's always been, I'm less than.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm mad about it. Yeah.
If you come from a less than place, now you're going to see others in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always going to create situations where you're actually feeling powerless and less than.
Yeah. Which I'm starting to beautifully, organically break free.
Yes.
Which
exactly.
is nice. One of the things that really resonated with me that you said is that when I went to the Lizzo concert in May and I was like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And I don't feel like I'm doing enough. You were like, wait a second. But what if you are? And I was like, say more. What? I don't get it. And you were able to help me understand that the way that I'm able to see Lizzo and the amazing work that she does is that I'm already doing and have that work in that spirit.
Right. Because you couldn't see it in her. Again, you couldn't see it in her if it wasn't already in you.
I love that's we say it again.
You couldn't see it in her. You can't see it in them.
You can't see
it. Unless it's already in you.
Always amazing. Always pleasure. So what would you like both of your supporters and your adversaries to know in regards to your work? And it's interesting because that's an interesting question because you don't attract who you're not supposed to work with. So like, are you of the opinion there are no adversaries to your work?
No, I'm actually of the opinion that whether or not they agree with me, their light matters too. So that's what I would actually say is thank you for either showing me what my edge is or trusting me enough to show me yours.
So if someone disagrees with your work, what are they seeing in you?
something that they judge in themselves, whatever they're seeing.
Yeah.
My work, I mean, I'm a happiness coach, right? Like my work is to teach people the art and science of happiness,
Yeah.
which means you have to do some deep shadow work to clear all that stuff out. If someone doesn't agree with my work, the consciousness that we're all one, that there's a soul or a spirit or a divine being, I'm very sorry that you don't agree with that. These are the universal truths. And again, I appreciate the fact that you haven't gotten there yet. And I really say to you, thank you for showing me your edge. I'm so sorry that whatever it is in me brings that out in you. I love you for it.
Is it about being sorry?
Sorry that, like, again, if someone shows up in your energy field with anything, in any way, it is because there is something in you they've been attracted to. So if it's in me and it's out, if they're showing up in front of me as an adversary, it's in me. So it's mine to clear and heal. And then they either neutralize or they go away, or they stay long, they come in longer. But it's always mine to heal. It's always mine to clear. That's the crux of the work. Nothing is ever outside of you. Ever. Right. So it's not an apology, but it is like, I'm sorry for this in me that resonates with you, that frequency.
Are you suggesting it's absolutely impossible for someone to be on the peripheral and overhearing maybe, and then being like, this is hogwash?
That's not impossible. They can, but they're still if it affects me in any way, they're in my energy field. Right? If they want to shout till they're blue in the face, this is hogwash. And you could pick any number of politicians that actually do that thing. They're antithetical to what I am.
Yeah.
If I let it affect me, it's mine to heal.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't affect me, you can shout till you're blue in the face. If it doesn't land, it's not mine.
But it's, not me, not mine.
Exactly.
So amazing. And what would you say to your supporters? How can more supporters like me, I've both benefited from your retreat and now your coaching. What can I do or other supporters do to help not only advance your work, but also help spread the message, or any way that we can do to help support?
First of all, keep doing your work. Like, please keep showing up, because I mean this so sincerely, that the world needs your light. Like yours, Amy Pons, and yours, who's ever watching, and like the world needs it. And so the biggest gift that you could give me is to keep shining it as fiercely and unapologetically as possible.
I shall.
Thank you.
Where do we find you?
My website is probably the fastest, easiest place. Phoenix-rising-healings.com. There's a long story why it has to have the dashes in it. It doesn't matter, but it's Phoenix Rising Healings with an S.com. And then if you can't find me there, I'm on Facebook as Phoenix Rising Healings. If you actually just type in Phoenix Rising Healings with an S, usually you can find me somehow. Facebook and my website are the fastest places. I'm all over the place. I'm a gadfly. I have like a YouTube channel and TikTok and Instagram and whatever, but like, if most of everything is centralized on my website.
Perfect. And if you can't find Robin, find me, and I'll of course connect you. So yes. Find Robin at phoenixrisinghealings.com. Any closing remarks?
You always have free will. You're going to do it this lifetime. You're going to do it next lifetime. You're going to do it 6 lifetimes from now. And we're at the point of consciousness where humanity is upgrading. So you don't have it's not that you don't have a choice anymore, but if you don't do the work now, it's going to get increasingly more painful to not do the work. So you may as well do it now, and it's not going to be as painful as you think it is, because it will be infinitely more painful to have to repeat this lifetime or have to sit in this frog boiling water that we're in.
All right, do the work.
Yeah. It's so worth it. I really promise.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.